I had seen the Bookkeeper Launch videos maybe a year prior to signing up, and I just knew that it was for me.
I love bookkeeping.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the I Love Bookkeeping show. We have got a lot of fun here planned today. Got a special guest. But first and foremost, if you have any questions, if we can serve you in any way, or if you want to hear anything about our podcasts, you want to listen to past episodes, please head on over to ilovebookkeeping.com. You're going to find all kinds of goodies right there. Now, today, I am very pleased to have a special guest. She's been a member of Bookkeeper Launch for a while. She says that she's an East Coast girl in a Midwest world. I got to dig into that right there. She's married, has 6 children. She says, yes, she has 6 children with a high tolerance for chaos. Hey, a bookkeeping business is perfect. She says that she stays mostly sane and have a lot of fun. She loves Jesus, road trips, coffee, and great conversations. So the reason that she started a bookkeeping business is that she and her family needed a second income while her husband pursued a seminary degree. So she launched Tidy Books in 2017 after taking the Bookkeeper Launch course. She has a background in photography, network and photography, so she thought that would be a great niche. Here she is. So I want to welcome you to the show, Tanya Hirschy.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I know that it's been a while since we've met, and I'm glad to have you on here today. Let's just get right into it. What does it mean to be an East Coast girl in a Midwest world?
Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania and moved to Chicago for college, met my husband, and stayed in the Midwest. So
Gotcha.
No more East Coast for me.
That's right. That's right. So Indiana is really considered Midwest. I've always wondered that.
It is, but now we're in southern Indiana, so it's a little bit southern territory.
I gotcha.
Some people might consider it southern, but it's still Midwest, I think.
Okay. So how do you balance 6 children, a husband, and a thriving business, as we'll talk about here in just a little bit? Are drugs involved?
No, coffee.
Okay.
I guess.
Caffeine.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And I don't feel like I do it well a lot of times, but it's been a learning curve for sure.
Oh, yeah. And what age range are your children?
So 10 and under.
10 and under.
My oldest will be 11. So, yep.
Oh. Well, bless your heart. I had 3, and well, I didn't have 3, but we had 3, and that was enough. So there you go. There you go.
It's a lot of fun. High chaos.
Yes. Well, like I said, that's good that you like a bookkeeping business. So, as you were looking for different ways to earn money from home or virtually, what else were you looking at other than bookkeeping?
Honestly, I don't really know if I looked at very much. I had a photography business when my older kids were younger. And then as I started having more babies, I had to shut that down basically. And then I had seen the Bookkeeper Launch videos maybe a year prior to signing up. And I just knew that it was for me. I watched all the videos and I was like, yes. And the first, when I had first seen them, it just wasn't the right timing. And I was like, oh, just put that on the back burner, keep that in mind for when the timing is right. And then sure enough, that next year is when we started going down this different path. And it was the right time. So
that's good. Okay. Now, did you have any prior bookkeeping, accounting, financial experience?
None. No.
Okay.
I had, I'm financially minded, I guess, but no experience prior to that.
Was it a steep learning curve for you?
Yes and no. I mean, the course was great. I feel like it prepared me for what I needed. Once I started taking on clients, it was quite a learning curve, but it was just learning something new every day. And you just gain a little bit of knowledge and experience every day and keep moving forward. When I was talking to my husband about, signing up for this course and launching the business, I said, you had mentioned a statistic about the amount of people that take a course, and don't follow through with it. And he said, well, how do you know this is going to work? And I said, well, I don't have time or money to waste. I've got five, at that time I had 5 kids, and I was like, I don't have time to waste or money. So it's going to work. It has to work. And it did.
There you go. That's the most important thing in terms of like the perseverance and just, and I always when I'm talking to people about, hey, potentially starting a business, whether it's my neighbor or somebody like that, and they're like, oh, I need to know for sure it's going to happen. I'm like, if you need to know for sure that it's going to work, then you do not need to go in business ownership because it's risky. I mean, it has an inherent risk, but the attitude and the action that you took is exactly what you need to set yourself up for success. So kudos to you.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Getting yourself not backed into a corner in a bad way, but just like, hey, I'm going to make it work. There's no other alternative.
Yeah, exactly. The determination and focus, I think, are the biggest keys to making it work. Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about the opportunity that's before you here in just a second, but what's your favorite thing about your business, your bookkeeping business?
Oh, I mean, I guess I would say the flexibility, because I'm a mom, and the ability to bring in income is just amazing. And to do it on my own schedule, on my own time. I love working for myself.
Yeah.
So it's really my dream job. Apart from being a mom, I guess it's kind of like, I feel like everything up to this point in my life has all come together to make this like the perfect job for me.
Wow. That's awesome. So juggling, so I know that you said flexibility, and we always talk about, hey, business ownership is hard. You don't just like, hey, it's an hour a day and doing all that I do. So the favorite thing is the flexibility. Let's talk about the others, darker side of things. Yeah. What's the biggest challenge that you have faced throughout this business development?
Yeah, I guess the flip side of just being an entrepreneur in general is the stress that comes with the weight of the business being on your shoulders. And so there are a lot of hard days in the midst of the really good ones. And I guess just learning how to get back up from those and push through and say, okay, this is a hard day, but I'm going to have another good day, soon, and being able to push through the walls that come up. And yeah, I guess most recently, I would say just restructuring work-life balance. That's a whole other topic, I'm sure, but not allowing the stress of being a business owner to creep over into the personal life.
Yeah, if you crack that nut, would you please tell me how to do it?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter what level we are, where we are in our business. That's just because life and business start to kind of meld together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that can be good, and it can also be a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the best of both worlds, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about your business. You started it in 2017, so you're about 3 years in. How many clients do you serve right now?
So I think I'm at 18. I just took on a slew of new clients. So yeah, I think I'm around 18 right now.
So how did you get those slew of new clients? What was did you hang out a shingle, skywriting?
Actually, I had a really great opportunity in the fall. I was reaching out to a few key vendors in my niche to see if I could put out some guest articles or podcasts. And I had one really big vendor that was like, yeah, let's do an interview. And they wrote an article about me that launched in December or January sometime. And I literally got like 20 consultations scheduled like that week. So it was a lever. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, do you serve clients all over, or are they in your area?
Yeah, all over.
Okay.
Yes, I'm completely virtual.
Okay. Have you ever met one of your clients in person?
Only one. She was a friend from before. I have a lot of clients in New York, and so I keep saying I want to take a trip there and just get together, have a party with all of
Oh,
us.
yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah. I think that they have a couple places to party in New York City.
yeah.
I think they just opened up a third one. So,
Yes.
good. All right. Well, thanks for giving us a little insights into that. It's good that you know exactly how many kids have. You don't have to know exactly how many clients.
Yeah, that's a good point. I probably should know.
Yeah.
It's just been a whirlwind for the last month. So
there you go. And I'm sorry you do not win the prize so far for having the most kids on the I Love Bookkeeping podcast. That title goes to Kirsten Reeder. So.
Oh, yeah. She's going to stay there. So.
Yeah. She's going to stay. You're not going to come back on in 4 years and go, hey, I beat her.
No. She wins.
Nah, probably not good. All right. So we always like to kind of dive into a challenge, an opportunity that you have. So, you've been at this 3 years. You've got a different perspective now. Tell us a little bit about where you want to go and the opportunity that stands before you today, Tanya.
Yeah. Well, I think when I started the business, it was more of a short-term vision. I just wanted to get us through seminary, provide an income. And now I've had to kind of step back and figure out long-term, where's this going? And I think where I'm at right now is I would like to get to the point where I could sell the business if I wanted to. But at least I want to be able to step out of running it and get to the point where it's more passive income, if not being sold. So I guess I'm just not sure how to get there. I've put a lot of work into my processes and my people, and there's a lot of things that are running smoothly, and I can plug in a new client and get them to a certain point. But I'm just kind of not sure where to go from here.
Okay. Well, first, you should pat yourself on the back for even considering where you want to be in the future, because most of us just kind of run through the days and it is what it is. And we're not thinking, as Stephen Covey says in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, beginning with the end in mind. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you're thinking about that is putting you head and shoulders above most people who own a business, not just a bookkeeping business. So thumbs up there. I'm giving you the thumbs up.
Thanks.
So I know I like your perspective, like building it to sell, but not necessarily selling it.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of benefits for that. In business ownership, there's these 2 perspectives, and I don't know how much I agree with it, but it's like, hey, you either build a business to provide you with a good income or you build a business to sell. And I think that we can do both. I know that the intention, because if you're building a public company and you want to sell it, then there's obviously things that you need to do different. But the things that you want to do, and most people don't think about this, is the value of their bookkeeping business. Because most likely, this will be the biggest payday that you ever get is when you sell your bookkeeping business, if it's built right. So, and the benefits that you get along the way allow you to live a life of more flexibility, as you mentioned earlier, and more freedom than before. So that's good. Now, what I would tell you is to say, hey, what is a timeline, right? And you don't have to express that here, but I would encourage you to kind of have a timeline, right, where you reassess. Because right now you have 6 children, 10 and under. In 10 years, you're going to be in a much different season of life, right? And then 15 years from now, you're going to be in a different season. The good thing about the way that you built your business now is that it goes with you. So you become an empty nester, in 20 years or whatever. And I use air quotes because I have a 19-year-old and I don't know how much an empty nester really applies. But let's pretend that's a thing. This business will go with you, whether you have sold it by then or not. You've built it the right way. So you've got good roots right now. You've got a solid foundation. So what I would, the things, let me ask a couple of questions first. How much of the work involves you? Like the actual work, not getting clients and marketing and sales, but how much of the day-to-day, month-to-month work is on your shoulders?
Yeah, so I have contractors, subcontractors, and I don't do any of the day-to-day or monthly work anymore. So my role is more supervising, managing my team, and the project, like making sure that it gets done.
Right.
So that's where a lot of my time is. And just, I'm the one that knows all the intricacies of each client and the nitty gritty. So I'm answering questions and making sure it moves along, but it's pretty much pretty much goes on without me every month.
Okay. Who is, do you meet with your clients like this, virtually, phone call, on a monthly or a quarterly basis?
I have a couple of packages that are more advisory. And so we'll meet either monthly or quarterly. And then on my lower level, we meet mid-year and then end of year.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So how many hours, this is a typical week. How many hours will you work this week on the bookkeeping fulfillment side of things?
Yeah. Well, it's the beginning of the month this week. So maybe I'm not very good at tracking this because it's a lot of here and there.
Right.
Maybe 5, maybe 10.
And this is the busiest week of the month.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Probably.
All right. Let's call time out right here. You already have a very sellable business. And what I mean by that is that it doesn't require a lot of your time. The less of your time that it requires, the more valuable it becomes. If I were to be a potential buyer for a bookkeeping business, and let's say that I was evaluating yours, and I asked you that question, Tanya, how much of your time is, and you're saying 5 hours a week during the busiest week of the month, maybe 10. Or I go to another person, they're like, oh yeah, I'm 40 hours a week. Well, in your case, I'm buying a business. The other case, I'm buying a job. Okay. Buying a job is not what I want, right? And so just as a rule of thumb, a bookkeeping business sells from a 0.5 to up to 1.5. And this is just very broad terms, Tanya. Don't quote me on this. 0.5 to 1.5 of annual sales. So let's just use round math and say that you had $100,000 a year revenue. Not net income, but revenue, gross revenue. And so with your type of business, it's probably going to be more towards the 100 to 150,000. Whereas the other one that I explained is probably going to be more than the 40 to 50,000 type of range. So you're already on a trajectory to build an asset that's a lot more valuable.
Okay.
Now, the valuation obviously comes down to an equation. The higher that you can get that revenue number, the more valuable it becomes. And the less work that you put into it, the more valuable it becomes.
Okay.
So I don't know, and I know that there are some people that have bookkeeping businesses that are 100% passive, and they have very valuable businesses. Now, I'll also tell you that they're lower profitability because they're paying other people to do it.
Okay. Yes.
So the more that you step out of it, right, because you're basically paying yourself, right? We don't reflect that typically, the work that we do. So you're not going to be as profitable, but you are going to be creating something on the back end that is much more profitable. And you're going to be living a higher quality of life, spending more time with your family and doing the things that you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So I would tell you one thing is to keep on doing what you're doing and to ask your question, how can I remove myself from this business?
Okay.
From the day-to-day, the month-to-month. So,
and when you say day-to-day, month-to-month, like what about onboarding a new client and then just the marketing and sales and proposals and all of that?
Everything up to, let's put marketing and sales on the shelf for just a second and talk about the onboarding.
Okay.
Basically what you want to do is that when it gets to that point, onboarding starts fulfillment, or it starts the operational side of things. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that is when I would want to be saying from that point forward, including the onboarding, how can you get yourself out of it? Now, you don't have to eliminate yourself from it, but how can you get yourself? So right now, let's say that an average client takes 10 hours to onboard and you're spending 8 hours with it now. How can you get that down to 5 hours?
Okay.
Don't say, hey, I'm spending 8 hours on it. How do I eliminate that? No. How do I get from 8 to 5? How do I get from 5 to 4? And take this in increments, because otherwise it seems like this insurmountable. You're like, oh, I can never do that. Well, can you go from 8 to 7? Yeah, probably so, with just a couple of tweaks.
Mm-hmm.
And you already are setting up great processes and things. So there's probably no reason to think that you could not offboard a lot of that to someone else.
Mm-hmm. I guess the area that I'm having trouble seeing how I can offload it is because I'm doing the proposal and like I said, I know the ins and outs of each client. I'm just having a hard time seeing how I could completely step out.
Right.
Because I'm the one that like holds the knowledge.
Are you talking about the onboarding?
Just onboarding and monthly.
Okay.
Because I'm the one that, I'm managing my team. And so they're coming to me with the questions.
Right. Okay. And you've done this before, the task audit that we talk about, right? Mm-hmm. So let's break down the onboarding process, okay, into a task audit. And let's figure out what's the simplest thing that I can offload that I'm still doing here. Let's start with the simplest things. There's probably not very many, right? But there are some, and it may get you from 8 hours, and I'm just throwing this out there, down to 7.5. Okay, so still a half hour, right? Makes your business, $30 more valuable. Mm-hmm. Doing that sort of thing, right? I would do all of that I could to where it's absolutely just the things that's inside your head and you think you need to take care of.
Okay.
So all that right there is give you an exercise that's going to take a little bit of time. Mm. Now, once you do that, do it again.
Okay.
Ask yourself again, because what you're going to find is that as you offboard some of these tasks to other people, they're going to be growing. Okay. They're going to be getting better. So one of the things that I want you to adapt is that you are first and foremost there to grow your employees, to grow your team, to make them better. Okay. And it makes your business better. So you have to see yourself as the director of the play and not the actor on the set. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of times that a director and an actor, the director becomes the actor, right? So she acts in the film and then she directs the film, and that's okay sometimes. But what we need to start doing is saying, how can I become the director and not so much the actor on stage? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, here's the other thing that I would tell you to do. And this really requires that you have somebody who's an employee who's dedicated to you, who is in the end going to be, more highly compensated than a contractor and that sort of thing, because you want them to have a vested interest. And that's to start taking an underling with you, to take them through the process, to help them to see, at first they are just kind of a fly on the wall, listening in on your conversations. I mean, let the potential clients know, don't, freak them out or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But that person, he or she is more of a fly on the wall. Mm-hmm. And they're, so this is probably somebody who has very good relationship skills, right? Somebody who, and it's really, really hard to find somebody who has good relationship skills and good technical skills like you do. It's almost like finding a unicorn riding on a rainbow in Ireland, right? It's hard, but they do exist. And I think that we can groom people to be that. But interpersonal skills and all that, I don't say you have them or you don't, but you have the seedlings for them or you don't, is my opinion. Mm-hmm. But that right there, starting to bring somebody underneath you who understands that process and now who understands this client. Mm-hmm. Okay. And this is where it becomes very, very important for the filtering process that we've talked about on other I Love Bookkeeping episodes, and come into the intensives, filtering out a potential client, right? Mm-hmm. Really getting honed in on streamlining who they are, how you serve them, so that there's not a lot of variance, right? If you have, and the great thing that you've already done to set yourself up for success is that you focus on photography, right? Mm-hmm. So that right in and of itself is half the battle. So
yeah, we've got our process down really for how we serve a client A to Z because we do the niche. So, and
that also makes you much more valuable because you have a niche and you're able to focus and your processes are streamlined. Mm-hmm. So that's good right there. What I would tell you to start doing is to really because right now, let me ask you this. Is your need financial? Like, are you able, now that what you earn, is it cool? Does it make the household like, we can breathe, all that now? Or
yeah, it's at the tipping point right now, I'd say.
Okay. So you can be more, and I say this pretty much on every time I interview, but you can afford to be choosy now, right?
Right.
Be choosier. Make sure that people are going to fit into your system. And if they don't, then they either adapt or you don't work with them.
Okay.
So
good reminder.
Yeah, absolutely. We all need to be reminded of that, because we see a new client, we're like, oh, this is great, we're taking on a new client. And then in the back of your head that this is probably not the perfect client. They're okay.
Right.
And then a year down the road, you're like, why did I ever take that person on?
Yeah, I have a couple of those.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the nature as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So I would tell you to start being choosier as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you, you're already on this trajectory to be able to do that. But the thing that you have to be asking, and one practical exercise I would encourage you is that I'm going to hold up, nobody in the audience can see this, but this is my to-do list for today. A lot of stuff on there. And if I really go through it and say, am I really the only person here that can do that? Then I'm going to circle it. And I haven't done this yet today. And I need to be reminded of this, Tanya. So don't do as I say, don't do as I do as I say. Yeah. But then the other things, I'm like, okay, if that's the only thing if only I can do that, then who do I need to train to take that off of me? More important, what is the process that I go through documenting that, the things that you're doing? But it's just being deliberate with that exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I have a question about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Question about the employee underling idea. What's kind of like a metric for, okay, it's time for me to take that step and bring someone, basically reproduce myself?
Right.
Like, when is the right time? Is it a revenue number? Is it a time management?
Yeah. So there is no formula or anything like that I'm aware of that I have found. A lot of it's fly by wire. I would say that it's not a flip the switch type of thing. It's more of a gradual approach where you take somebody that you may have now. And if you don't have that person internally, that's fine. You have very operational people. If you don't have somebody, then what I would tell you is that it's just like, you didn't meet your husband and then the next day go get married. That typically doesn't happen. Right. You went on a date, you went on another date, and there's a courtship and all of that. And I would tell you the same thing with an employee, with somebody that you're trying to get as your team member, because this is not a one and done type of process. This is somebody that is key to your business, and you want to make sure that that's the right person. You also want to make sure that as you're doing this, that your systems are developed. So if that person were to leave, you're not left, and now you just got to step in to do it. Finding redundancy, finding somebody else that can do that. But that's way down the road, Tanya. Mm-hmm. The things that we've talked about here right now are already going to put you on a trajectory to be there, right? It's like mowing the grass, right? If I mow the grass today, well, not today because it's raining and nasty out, but if I mow the grass in a week, I got to mow it again. In a week, I got to mow it again. Same thing when it becomes to things that are about building value in our business, working on our business, right? Really thinking, and I do this every day. The last thing on my list here today should be the first, but is to brainstorm. And I have this little diagram that I have right here where I just write stuff down. If somebody were to look at this, they would think I was crazy, like the guy on what was that movie? Russell Crowe, A Beautiful Mind. They would think that I was nuts or something like that. But I just spend time like brainstorming and letting my, hey, what if? And most of the stuff is just pure garbage. But sometimes something good comes out of it. And so just encourage you to, and I know that you've heard this about a bazillion times, as have I, but I need to be reminded, working on our business, not working in our business. But those are the things that, you're already on this trajectory. And now I think it's just taking it to the next level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I've made some notes about kind of some practical things I can do to take a higher level look at what I do. And I like the idea of looking for an underling and like breaking down the process of what I actually do and how I can offload that gradually. Yeah.
Also, I would tell you to say, hey, let's pretend, I won't say that let's pretend you're having another baby. You need to be off for 90 days. what would need to change to make that happen to where you wouldn't lose any clients? The clients would probably even know that they would just be sending you, balloons and baby gifts because you had another child, right? Or you wanted to take a 90-day vacation, take whatever the case may be. Just putting yourself in that frame of mind, not 30 days, but 90 days, right? We can all probably get away with our business 30 days, but 90 days is a little different.
Yeah, that sounds very attractive. And honestly, that's how I got to this point in the first place, was I did have that sixth child. And I said, I want to be able to take a maternity leave, so to speak. Right. So that's when I started hiring people, and it kind of made me scale faster than I wanted to. But in the end, that was, it was a great thing. Yeah. But yeah, I think about that a lot. Like, what if we had a crisis and, someone's in the hospital, or I want to have margin, like you said, where I could step out if needed, and it's still going to run without me.
Let's think positive. Say you won the Wheel of Fortune, and that was a 90-day trip to Europe, right? For you and your husband and your 6 children. So let's think positive like that. What would have to happen? Mm-hmm. And then as you start to do this, experiment with it, because here's the best thing. The best way to find out if it's working is to do it, right? Take 30 days off. Yeah. Say, hey, you know what? September of this year, I'm going to set it up and I'm going to take 30 days off. I mean, I'm really going to take 30 days off. Like, unless the place is, metaphorically burning down, I'm not coming back in. You don't contact me. Deal with it. Mm-hmm. And then if that goes well, and there won't totally, right? Figure out what didn't go well, fix it. And then say, all right, you know what? In 6 months, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take this time 40 days off or a month and a half off. And extend that way, right? And it really forces you, but you have to be deliberate, and you have to schedule that, and you have to let everybody know. You can't just like the day before go, oh, hey, tomorrow I'm taking off.
Yeah.
Here's the key.
I love that idea. It's kind of like a trial run of where we're going, where we're headed. Yeah.
And it'll kind of give you and commit to it, right? Like, you and your family sit down and say, okay, maybe it's next December you want to take off, for Christmas and Thanksgiving, but take that month off or whatever. Maybe it's summertime. I don't know. It does require a little bit of, I would say make it 4 or 5 months out, because there's a lot that needs to go on probably. Make it realistic and commit to it, right? Put it out there. Put it out there to your clients. Put it out there to your team, and then go for it. Yeah. And that's the ultimate thing. You'll come back and you'll figure out what didn't work.
Yeah. Because, I can't really imagine that right now, because it's like, oh, what if, this client needs to reach me, but it's like, I need to set it up so that I'm not the one that needs to be reached.
Yeah. And ask yourself, why do they need to reach me? What is it that they're asking? Why is it that they're asking for me? And it's probably not them. It's how we've trained them. And that's our business model, right? So this is so counterintuitive. We're in a service-based business. So thinking the way that you're thinking puts you in the rare air 1% of people who are actually saying this is a business and not a practice. It's not just a service. It's an actual business, which is something radically different in the bookkeeping, accounting, and tax world these days. Most people think, all right, I say I owned a CPA firm for 14, almost 15 years. The first 10 years or first 8 years, I didn't own a business. I owned a job. I really didn't like it. And as I started to shift and do the things that we've talked about here a number of times, I started to own a business, which made it much more sellable. Looking back, there's a lot of things I could have done different, right? So most of the things I'm sharing with you today are things that I've learned that the hard way, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're in 3 years. I wasn't where you were until about 10 years in. So,
well, I didn't get here by myself. So,
none of us do. But that's the thing. And, the great thing about it is that if you build a business where you can take 60 or 90 days off a year, it's very sellable, but you could totally just say, hey, you know what? I don't want to sell it yet. I'm in this season of life where I like my life. I like this business being part of it. Because I'll tell you this also, you've tasted the life of working for yourself.
Right.
So if you were to sell it and have to go to work for someone else, you're tainted for life probably now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And not in a bad way, but just, we understand the commitment. We understand that it's our way. We understand and we like being in charge of our own destiny. And so in terms of our success, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I feel like one of the mind blocks for me in, kind of mapping this out is giving up the control of I had to give up the day-to-day control, which now it's great that I don't have that on my plate anymore. But the thought of like giving up that, I've built a relationship with my client,
Yep.
And I need to be able to trust my team
Yep.
to carry that on. And it's just a hard, I don't know. It's difficult.
That's a great observation. One thing I would add is that this process, I wouldn't try to implement this immediately with your existing clients. I would use it on new clients moving forward. Okay, because that's a lot easier to do, because if you train people to only talk to you, you don't just go, hey, it's like you're dating somebody and go, oh, hey, I can't go out tonight, but here's my sister. And you're like, what? No. So
yeah.
I would say that moving forward, you experiment more with this as you're being choosier, right? This is something that you go, hey, this is Amanda, this is Tim. We're on a team here. They're going to be your initial point of contacts. Don't start from the beginning, the very first conversation of setting the tone, and not like, hey, you're talking to Tanya the entire time, and then it's time for onboarding, and whoosh,
right.
Amanda and Tim, see ya. From the very beginning, from the very get-go. Now you're setting them up, and if they have a problem with that, then they're not a good fit, right?
Yeah. When I had the baby and I had my contractors, and when they first came on with me, I set it up where they just took it over, like A to Z, and they had all the client facing responsibilities as well. But then I've worked hard to step that back and break it out by tasks, which is great. But now I am the face of, they don't interact. My clients don't interact with the behind the scenes team, and I'm the face. So it's like, yeah, I need to figure out how to, I think that's the next thing to break that apart and say, who can do this?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, again, just start with moving forward, get that system down. Then you can go back and start trying to retrofit, if you will, But it comes down to what you talked about at the very beginning of this is, hey, this is where I want to go. This is how I want to live. You're building a very flexible business that's not only just like day-to-day flexible for your schedule, but one that you can alter as your life changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's wrap things up here. What's your big action item that you're going to take from today's conversation?
Yeah, I think the first thing I might do is, you suggested breaking down my onboarding process, kind of nitty gritty, like what do I do from the time I bring a client on till they're ready for monthly production, and what things out of that could I start offloading to, and kind of like making a job description for that task. Yeah.
Yep. Also, there's a thing, and you can Google it. Check out a job scorecard. I think that's by the guy who wrote Who. I think is where that comes from. A job description is good. A job scorecard kind of is just what it says, right? It takes the description and says, hey, how would we quantify how you're doing in this job? Okay. What that role entails. So check that out too.
Okay.
Well, good. Well, Tanya, I appreciate you being on here with us today.
Thanks, Ben.
Commend you for building a great business.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. And I look forward to seeing you here in a few weeks. We're having an intensive here. So it'll be awesome. I'm very excited. Can't wait. All right. Well, if you want to find out more about Tanya's awesome business, you can go to tidybooksboutique.com. Is that right? Yes, that's right. It's Tidy Books. Yeah, Tidy Books Boutique, not tiny, but tidybooksboutique.com, or follow her on Instagram at Tidy Books Boutique. There's no .com to that. So thanks, Tanya Hirschy, for being with us here today on the I Love Bookkeeping show.
Thank you, Ben.
Listen, if you would like to hear more great conversations just like today's, then I want you to head on over to ilovebookkeeping.com. There, you're going to find all of the shows, the notes, and some other great goodies that we have for you there. Now, if you'd like to be a guest on the I Love Bookkeeping show, there is a link that says Be a Guest. Go in there, and we'll walk you through the process of getting on the show. And finally, to discover more about our programs, go to the courses page on the ilovebookkeeping.com site. There you have it, another great episode of I Love Bookkeeping. Thank you for being a proud listener, and thank you for being a bookkeeping professional. Enjoy the rest of your week.
I love bookkeeping. Here's a little shout to all my friends working hard at keeping the books. You want to change your life, you want to grow that biz, it's not as hard as it looks. Be a money guide, a profit coach, step up your game and see